Hey, what's up? All right, we've got 8 people here so far. By my count, that is. Let's look at the chat. We've got Apurva, we've got Mathura, we've got Kavya, we've got Toshika, we've got Dharshil, Shweta, Wanit, Parika. Everyone, welcome. Sorry about the confusion. I just wanted to make sure that we actually get people who are actually not people I've already spoken to, someone who's already spoken to. I think for 80% of you, especially after the previous webinar, we had someone from our team, either it was me or someone else, had a one-on-one conversation with you guys. And so I just wanted to make sure that if we're doing a webinar where we're doing a one-to-many conversation, we actually get sort of somewhat new people, because there's a lot that we can and we probably will cover in a one-on-one conversation. So yeah. Hey Isha, what's up? All right, so for everyone's reference, we've got Drexel specific plans up here. We just got the approval for the goal plan because we were unsure if Drexel was going to allow that, and so it appears that they will. So the brochure for that will go up right after this. But it's the same. The goal plan on the website is the same, quote unquote PSI goal plan, except it's just much cheaper. So hopefully that doesn't cause too much confusion. All right, we've got. Let me just post a message in the group. I don't see Parag, who was, I think, leading the charge on Let's Do the session today. Unless Parag is in the chat. Hey, Kiran, what's up? All right. Okay. Cool. Parag is here as well. Okay. So what I want to do before the session is sort of get a sense of where everyone's at, or generally I want to understand if most of you actually were at the previous session, so that because my plan was to not actually go through the basics today, but actually go through a little bit of the plans, and possibly do a short session on why exactly Indian plans are really bad, why exactly ISO plans are really bad, and then sort of go quickly through the selection of plans we have in terms of Drexel, which is we've got Gold, we've got Platinum, we've got Immune, and we've got Diamond, which is an excellent plan that we recently received. So all 4 of them are very, very solid plan. Well, I mean, they're solid compared to, as a group, any Indian plan that you might think about, or any ISO plan you might think about. They're way, 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 way better than any of those. But within those plans, there's obviously a certain plan that I'd recommend more than another plan. And so we're going to go through that stratification of which is the best plan among these 4. And generally speaking, as I said, why are Indian plans really bad, and why is ISO a shitty plan? Now, for you to fully understand and absorb that discussion, you'll probably have to understand and know the material that we covered in the previous webinar. What I'm going to do is probably, I'm going to let the poll stay up for a follow-up webinar. And what I'll do is I'll do another one, hopefully for people who didn't attend the first one. So essentially the people who are actually lacking the more basic version of information. Parth is here. So that's good, I suppose. Anyway, so hopefully people are clear on the structure. And again, like, it would be great if you guys can actually steer your friends towards sort of these discussions, because as I said, 80% of the people I've spoken to, or 80% of the people who attended last time, are people we've already spoken to at this point. So it'd be great to sort of reach out to a bit more new people, because as it is for any of you, we would be scheduling an individual call, or we would be catering to your individual queries. For that specific reason, one of our team members, Aditi, is who I introduced, I think, briefly in the group, and I'll do an intro later after the session as well. She's going to be the point person for all of you to answer any questions, and I'm going to be doing the webinars and sort of doing more high-level interest-related stuff. Part's going to be, I believe, more active on the group as well. He was away for vacation, and now he's back. So I think for immediate questions, for immediate responses, those are the two people to go to immediately. And you'll be seeing me very sort of regularly on the webinars. And my sense is we'll probably do a couple more before we really sort of get to a place where we say, okay, all Drexel students, I think we've imparted enough information. Let's wrap it up. And so my hope is that it's Wednesday today. By Sunday, my hope is that we've wrapped everyone up. We've answered everyone's questions. And in the case of certain people, some of you have pre-existing conditions, and we are currently going through the process of actually making sure that specific medication you take for that condition, or a specific consultation or test that you'd actually require for those conditions, all of those things are covered. So with that said, I think it's a good time to start. We're gonna try to keep this one a lot briefer, in the sense that we're probably gonna have a hard stop at 1 hour. Part of the reason why I want to do that is because so that maybe it's easier for people to actually watch and consume and share. Now that Parth is back, our plan is to release a video, which is actually, it's going to be a little different from the kind of video that we do usually. There's obviously going to be this larger chunk, this larger video, probably 10-ish, 10, 15 minutes max. But we're also going to have like clips and snippets on subtopics, like why is Indian insurance bad? Or like specific, like 3 to 5 minute clips on analyzing a particular ISO plan or a particular Indian plan, like Bajaj Allianz or any other plan that you guys are considering, ICICI Lombard, all of that stuff. First of all, any of the Indian plans in your case are actually not allowed, because Drexel's requirements just straight away reject them. Let me actually pull up Drexel's requirements just so that I can read them out to you. But if any of you are really considering any of those plans seriously, it's important to know that that's not really a good idea. Not because of the quality or the lack of quality of these plans, which in itself is a good reason, but because Drexel's probably going to be rejecting all of those plans, or not even probably, they're going to be rejecting definitely all of those plans. Here is the link to Drexel's waiver requirements. Hi Abhilasha, what's up? And if you guys see, there is this specific requirement, which I'm going to type out in the chat, which says, my plan is provided by a company licensed to do business in the United States with a US claims payment office and a US phone number. So the vast majority, if not all, Indian plans essentially are disqualified under this clause. A lot of them also actually are disqualified because a lot of Indian plans do not have coverage for a pre-existing condition. So for example, if you have a pre-existing condition like diabetes or asthma or anything of that sort, Indian plans, or the vast majority of Indian plans, will not cover any of it. Let me share a document that we'd written down with an analysis of ISO and Indian plans, which I will kind of follow and go into the structure of and sort of go into the content of a little bit and talk about briefly. Again, I want to just spend 5 minutes there for any of you who are still considering them. Part of it is a mood discussion, again, because I think Indian plans aren't really going to be relevant for this discussion for specifically Drexel. And in the case of ISO, we're going to talk about exactly why ISO plans are very, very risky. So, okay. In the meantime, by the way, like I've laid out the structure. Please comment. Please tell me if you have any questions. Please tell me if there's a specific thing you'd like to cover so that I make sure that I don't miss out on it. As I said, we're going to stick to a hard stop at an hour. So we have around 50 more minutes. By 50, I mean 50. Here is the publicly accessible document that I was talking about for Indian and ISO plans analysis. Anyway, I'll pause. Why don't you guys tell me, in the plan that I laid out, what do you want me to add for the structure for today in terms of our discussion? And if there's anything I'm missing out, if there's if there's a small question you want to get out of the way, our plans are live for Drexel here. I'm gonna post the link again. You guys can check it out, and you guys can message me, message Aditi, or message Parth, preferably. I mean, all of us or either of us, for any individual specific questions you have, and we'll be completely happy to jump on a call. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking for 30 seconds. You guys get your questions in, or get any point or anything in that I'm actually I haven't laid out so far. Actually, I'll be right back in like 10 seconds. I'm gonna get some water. Okay. I don't see any questions or comments. Isha asks, can you please explain the term maximum out of pocket? Sure. It's a good question. What else? What else? All right. Okay. It seems like there are no more questions, so I think Isha asks, what is the co-insurance after that amount is met? For sure. These are all good signs. If you guys are asking these questions in these terms, that means that you guys are already starting to understand these fundamental terms. Something that I've been telling people a lot, by the way, of late, which is true, and I don't know if I mentioned this with you guys in the previous session, is that the knowledge and the information that we're spreading and you guys are absorbing about insurance is not only going to be relevant to you right now, it's going to be relevant to you for the rest of your time in the US. And it's really important to know these things because they are going to be something that you're going to be responsible for. And what I mean by that is that when you go to a particular hospital, and inevitably at some point you have to be using some kind of medical service in the US, these are the terms in which like the cashier or the nurses, etc., will be communicating with you on. And if you're not really aware of these things and how they work, obviously just doesn't make you look good. But beyond that, sort of the optics of it, it's also about the fact that you may end up not actually knowing or understanding your bills, which is one of the most dangerous things in the US, because you can quickly rack up debt without your knowledge, and that can actually take your credit score tanking into the ground, and that can essentially cause you serious problems way out in the future. I think I've mentioned this, but again, I'll reiterate this fact because I think it just highlights how, one, expensive healthcare is and how really important it is to understand all of these terms. The number one cause of debt in the US is healthcare debt, like not mortgage, not like house-related debt, none of that. It's healthcare debt. So it's really, really, really all of this information. This is going to help you in the future. So it's even going to help you in the sense that when you guys actually get jobs, you will be able to choose between insurance plans that your employer offers. There are things like HSAs, or sort of like there are accounts that you can set up to essentially get tax benefits and actually contribute towards your healthcare. So all of this basic information we're covering is actually going to make you a much more informed sort of general, citizen of the US society, if not the country, legally. So yeah. Isha asks, do prescription drugs need to be bought from certain pharmacies only? That's another good question. Isha also asks, does medication insurance cover supplements? I'll cover all of those. Parika asks, after you compare the plans, can you tell me which plan do you think to be the best as compared to Drexel's? Will do. Isha asks, what is excess provision policy? All right, great. We've got a bunch of questions. It seems like, I guess my question is, like, out of the 16 people here, is anyone really considering? Well, you can't really buy Indian plans, so I guess it doesn't make a huge amount of sense to actually go for that discussion and waste our time. That's something. So let's start with talking about Wow, Isha is on fire today. Isha asked, "What is does insurance cover assaults?" Okay, I will go through each of those questions, Isha. Thank you very much for all of those questions. Okay, so let's start by talking about. One second. I want to pull up a file. Let's start by talking about this insurance that maybe you guys have heard of. It's called ISO, and it's quite popular among international students because they are extremely cheap, but they're cheap to a point where they really, really, really heavily compromise on very, very important things. And so that's what I want to talk about first for the first 10 minutes, because as international students, you are going to be tempted by the promise of saving money. You are going to be tempted by a better deal, but it is worth asking. Excuse me. It is worth asking: is it actually a better deal? Are you actually saving money? And most importantly, is the ISO Secure Insurance going to be doing its job when it comes to actually taking comprehensive care of my health, and more importantly, taking comprehensive care of my financial well-being when I actually need healthcare? So for that discussion, here's a document that you guys can actually look at. This is an actual PDF, an annotated PDF of the ISO Secure policy document. And so let's actually break down some of the biggest fine print that ISO plans don't actually cover. If you are in the chat, you should probably also open side by side the document that discusses the Indian and ISO plans, and we can actually walk through some of them. So let's kind of start at the bottom. Let's talk about, I think I introduced this concept of best case, average case, and worst case sort of buckets. One of the issues, and one of the biggest issues with ISO's plans, is that they do not cover any, they have zero coverage for motor vehicle accidents. Now think about that. Motor vehicle accidents, which is, a car accident or like you get hit by a bike or anything of that sort, basically transport-related accidents, they are possibly some of the biggest bills that you can rack up in terms of your health, in terms of using the healthcare system in the US. In fact, in some cases, if it's a serious accident, you are looking at, you're probably going to be possibly paying more than 50K, 100K in terms of how much your bill might actually add up, right? So that is an incident where the bill is actually going to be greater than what you're paying for your tuition. And if you're someone who's actually taking a loan and coming to the US, then if you, again, God forbid, in the worst case that you actually get to that situation, you will have potentially a gigantic bill that you might need to take care of, that's going to be bigger than the loan that you've taken to get to the US in the first place. So that's worth thinking about, right? And that's exactly the kind of situation that you're buying insurance for, right? But the catch is that ISO's insurance does not protect you from, any kind of coverage that arises from motor vehicle accidents. And so you will easily be responsible for the entirety of a 50K bill, or 50K plus bill. In some cases, it exceeds 100K, depending on the severity of the damage, depending on the severity of injuries. So that's one of the glaring things about ISO's insurance, that is not covered, and that is just a baffling exclusion that I don't understand why it exists in that plan and how they actually have it in there, and they're selling it to a bunch of international students. So that's one of the things to really understand, that in the worst case bucket, ISO gets like 0 points because it does not cover a, like a motor vehicle or a road accident is something that you can expect to happen to anyone, right? So the fact that which is, certainly more of a common worst case scenario, does not exist in the worst case bucket, just absolutely is, one, baffling, and secondly, really alarming for you as a consumer, and should be alarming for you as a consumer. So whatever couple hundred, I don't remember the exact price of ISO Secure, but I think it gives you like maybe $100 buffer or something like that when you compare it to, say, even our lowest plan, which is the gold plan, which I'll talk about. So whatever $100 you're saving there is really, really not worth it. Now let's talk about the other hidden caveat with ISO plans. If you actually look at the brochure, they do one of those clever terms and conditions apply thing, where they have a number on the brochure, which says 1. And then if you actually look at the fine print for the deductible, and if you guys remember from our last discussion what the deductible is, it's the amount of money that you pay before your insurance becomes active at all, right? And as we discussed last time, there are two kinds of deductibles. There's the annual deductible, and you've got the per occurrence deductible, right? So ISO Secure's deductibles are per occurrence. Now, as you remember, or hopefully you remember, the equation that we talked about, which is how do you calculate the expected cost of a particular insurance, right? So all of the plans that I've put up on, or all of our plans essentially for Drexel, are annual deductible plans. What that means is that you're just going to be paying $100 or whatever the amount of deductible is. I think in the case of the Diamond plan, the deductible is $50. You're just going to be paying that amount once, and that's it. Then your insurance basically becomes active. However, in the case of ISO plans, it's a per occurrence deductible. What that means is every time you use a healthcare service, every time you go to the student health center, you have to pay, in the case of student health center, $45 just fixed, because your insurance is just not going to be active until you've paid that $45. And if you go to any outside facility, right, just for a simple test, just for a simple X-ray or scan, just for anything simple, you're going to be shelling out at least $90, right? So one of the core value propositions that at least ISO sort of pitches itself as, which is this, like, you save $100 to save $200, that in 1 or 2 visits is already down to zero, right? So again, it's really, really important to sort of understand and notice that ISO is one of the first among many deals you'll probably see in the US that will seem too good to be true, and it therefore is. So that's another thing. That's another thing that sort of makes it fail in the average case scenario, where if you're actually paying $100 every time you have to use a healthcare service, and again, this is just $100 as like an activation fee. All of your other copays, like prescription medication coverage, for example, all of that is going to be added on top of your deductible, right? So it's not that it's fixed at $90, it's that that's the base default amount of price you'd be paying. So that's another issue with the ISO plan. Let's talk about, let me talk about another important thing. So as we talked about last time, if we think about really the average case, one of the very important things that you have to consider when thinking about the average case scenario is your prescription medication coverage, right? Because every time you're going to be seeing a doctor or going to any healthcare facility, you are going to be getting some kind of medication prescribed. So it's really important, and ideally, it would be great to have some kind of ceiling or cap on that, on the medication expenses that you'll have, because then going into any pharmacy, you'll think this is probably going to be somewhat of the maximum amount I'm going to be spending on whatever medication it is that you're buying. Now, as we've discussed, in the case of some really solid plans that we have, like Immune, we have copay coverage for medication. If you guys remember what copay is from the last discussion, it's the amount of money that you pay for a specific service within a health insurance, right? So the copay for medication is, for Immune, if I remember correctly, for tier 1 medication, it's $10. For tier 2 medication, it's $20. And for tier 3 medication, it's $40. What that means is you are going to be once you pay $10, say, for tier 1 medication, and or let's skip tier 1 medication. Let's actually take the case of tier 2 medication, because that's probably, again, we're talking about the average case bucket. Tier 2 is probably the average case scenario, right? You're going to be paying $20, and then the insurance takes care of the rest of it. In the case of our Diamond plan, there is, again, a copay. It's $30 for any tier. So again, you're going to be paying $30, and then the insurance takes care of the rest of the bill for medication. So putting all those facts together, what we see is that for prescription medication, we get that sort of like ceiling or cap with these plans, which essentially allows you to, in your head, at least walk into a clinic thinking, hey, this is the amount of money that I'm probably going to be spending on medication, and that's really good to know, right? However, in the case of ISO plans, you've got co-insurance-based coverage or percentage-based coverage for medication. So what's going to happen with an ISO plan, and this is a flaw in the Gold plan as well, that I would say, and this is a flaw in the Platinum plan as well, I would say, that the Platinum plan, I believe, pays 80% of your prescription medication bill. And that's fine, I think, in the case of prescription medication bills where you're probably buying really cheap medication, or you're not buying a huge amount of medication, like it's only for a few days. So basically, if the price of the medication is below 100, then maybe you're fine, right? Because in the case of the in the case of the platinum plan, and in the case of ISO, that's not that much because you're paying $20. However, very rarely is it going to be that you pay more. You pay less than $100 for medication in the US, or at least the list price is less than $100 because medication is shit expensive in the US. So if we start going beyond $100, right? If we say go to $200, already you can see that 80% at 80% coverage, you're paying $40, and that keeps on rising, right? That keeps on rising for something serious, right? So you might be paying less for something like a common cold, but if you get a more severe infection, you get a more severe cold, you get something like a fever, right? Your costs keep rising, and they rise again. Remember, prescription medication is something we can associate with the average case bucket. We can associate with your average interaction with the healthcare system, and so that keeps on rising. And so again, if you think about whatever the core value proposition of ISO plans is, which is savings, we've already lost that 200 buffer, or that difference between an ISO plan and, say, one of the plans that we have from Aetna, right? That's already lost due to the per occurrence deductible. And then you start adding on top of that things like prescription medication coverage, and you start to go into the red, right? Like you are now actually losing money on insurances like ISO. And again, we've discussed how for the worst case, it's an absolute nightmare scenario, right? It's an absolute nightmare scenario because it does not cover any coverage for any kind of accident, right? And even if there's a 5% chance of you getting into that situation, like if you get into that situation, and if you come from wealth and your family is well off and you can easily afford to pay $50,000 without blinking an eye for an accident coverage, then that's fine. But if you're someone who's an international student who's even taken a bit of a loan and you are constrained by finances, if you get a $50,000 medical bill, you can forget about the degree, and your primary concern is going to be dropping out and actually taking care of that bill, or possibly having to take another loan, right? And so therein again lies the point: is that is that really a sensible decision? Even if there's a 5% chance of like disaster, do you want to take that chance if you can avoid it? I wouldn't do it, as common sense would dictate. Okay, let me skim through the document again and see if I've missed anything in terms of talking about stuff. Again, you guys can read a bulk of this stuff on the document. There's a huge amount of stuff that we've put out on the document. But yeah, and I'm happy to have further discussions. We're going to be doing more follow-up webinars. We're going to be around in the WhatsApp group. As I've said, Aditi is going to be sort of the point person, continuously sort of sticking around in the WhatsApp group. Bart's back from vacation, so he's going to be around. And I apologize if I've not been super responsive, but that's sort of out of the purview of my responsibilities at the moment. But both of these people are going to be always available to have these discussions with you. Now, let's move on to, one other thing that ISO's plan don't cover is sports-related coverage, or sort of physical recreational sports or activities that you might be undertaking, coverage for that. So for example, if you're playing soccer, there's something called sort of intramurals, or pickup soccer with your friends, so on and so forth. And I say soccer, I never, that's the Americanization in me sort of showing. By soccer, I mean football, right? Which is the actual name of the sport, the sensible name of the sport. So you're playing football with friends, right? It's a weekend, you're done with your exams, and you just want to have fun, and you injure yourself. Now, on ISO's plan, that's not going to be covered as well. Thinking again about those three buckets: best case, average case, worst case. This even isn't something that's going to be the average case scenario, right? I've played a game. I played cricket with my friends at Brown. I've played football with my friends at Brown. I've played. I've worked out, right? So all of these physical activities are not covered under ISO's plan. And again, that is a huge, huge, huge problem, because it not only limits what you might be doing. Some people, if they still take it, if you still want to go ahead and take it, you probably don't want to be doing any of these activities, right? You probably don't want to be working out in the fear that if you actually get injured, you cannot get coverage, and you have to pay again, especially for physical bone-related injuries. It's really expensive to get them treated in the US, right? So that's another huge, huge, huge lifestyle hurdle. Like let's even forget about the coverage. It's a lifestyle hurdle for you. And that's another reason why I'd say ISO's plans are really, really not worth taking. Another, and this point might sort of be like small to big depending on what your preference is, but ISO's plans are also reimbursement based. What that means is that if you're not the kind of international student who just has like thousands of dollars lying around in their bank and you're perfectly not running on a tight budget, or you're not the kind of international student who's planning their monthly budget, ISO's plans are reimbursement based, which means that you're going to be having to foot the full bill, the entire bill up front. And so you're going to be paying hundreds, if not, $1,000+ on every visit, which actually entails any substantial treatment, right? And so I know personally for myself, as a kind of person I have been, and sort of the kind of lifestyle I've had as an international student, that certainly would upset my financial balance or my financial planning for the month if I have to pay $1,000 in just sort of a semi-serious, not a serious, actual serious visit, but if I get a cold or if I get a fever, which I would get, for example, from the weather change. In that case, if I had to pay $1,000, I probably wouldn't even be seeking treatment, right? Because that is not a small amount as an international student oftentimes. So that's another issue, again, and that falls into the average case bucket. You are going to be paying out of your own pocket, no matter what kind of treatment you seek, every time. And again, that probably eliminates almost going to a hospital for a test, because there the bill is going to be easily in the thousands. It's going to be, you can assume it's going to be beyond $1,000. And so again, it's worth thinking about how that might actually cause you severe issues. If you go to the emergency room, then you're going to be probably paying in the thousands, like multiples of thousands, right? So if you are the kind of person who has no issues paying thousands of dollars upfront and then waiting 3 to 6 weeks for receiving your claim, and again, also sort of like waiting and hoping that your claim gets processed, then great, ISO is the plan for you. But if not, then you have to think about how that's actually really, really, really not a good idea for you. Okay, and one more thing on the claims process, by the way, ISO has probably a terrible, Isha also asks, Isha says, I checked the brochure of Bradley that you had shared, not sure which plan. They'd mentioned listed sports covered. Soccer wasn't mentioned. Yeah, I think someone's told me this. Isha, that's probably like I'll check. That's probably a mistake, because like I'm on Aetna Immune and I know for a fact that that's covered. And I know for a fact that because I have it in sort of like the internal policy documents we have, I have it there, so I can check and actually fix that error. But it shouldn't be there. Let me quickly check. It shouldn't it shouldn't not be there. As in, soccer is 100% covered because I play, and I played many times at Brown, and I played it in the past year. And since I'm on the plan, this was one of the things that I checked. So let's see. Someone actually pointed this out, and I think we fixed this error in the. I think this was like, it was skipped in the PDF, but it's actually in the plan. Let's see. Okay, yeah, it's in the sports, included sports, it should be there. I'll make a note and actually fix that. But for those of you who are confused whether that's covered or not, it is covered in all of the, or at least it's covered in, I believe, yeah, it's covered in Immune. I believe it's covered in Diamond. So all of the plans that have sports coverage, it's covered in. Anyway, coming back to the point. So if you're fine actually having a reimbursement-based plan, that's completely fine. If you're fine waiting for weeks and weeks for that reimbursement to come, that's completely fine. But another factor that comes into the case with ISO is that ISO is really infamous for having a notoriously bad reimbursement process. I just shared a link in the chat that actually has a bunch of catalog reviews over the years of students who've actually tried to reimburse ISO plans. And again, this goes back to like, you might be hearing some seniors sort of endorse an ISO plan. You need to ask them, have you actually used the plan? Have you actually submitted and filed a claim? And a lot of times people might be full of shit and they might tell you, hey, I actually used the plan. Ask them about the details of the process. Ask them how long it took for the claim to be filed. Because again, I've heard this case over and over and over again of dissatisfactory responses, incomplete reimbursements, and sometimes no responses at all, or just rejection of reimbursement claims. So that's another level of risk that I personally wouldn't take. I don't recommend you guys take, and that's another issue with the ISO plan. Okay, I think that's kind of enough about ISO. I think you guys have the doc, and we will be happy to sort of dig deeper into specific aspects. Let us, yeah. ISO also doesn't have preventive care, which is like, doesn't cover some vaccinations, some core vaccinations, and that's fine if you actually have taken those vaccinations before coming to Drexel. But that's another issue. It doesn't cover some common tests and screenings for checking your diabetes, sort of sugar levels and cholesterol levels, so on and so forth. Whereas in a bunch of our plans with Gold and Immune, preventive care, which is what all of these things entail, those are fully covered. Those are 100% covered. Anyway, okay, that's enough about ISO. I want to pause for a bit, and I'm gonna wait and take some questions from you guys for say 60 seconds, and then I'm gonna go through the questions that Isha has outlined, and then we can kind of dive into comparing the plans that I laid out, or the Aetna plans that Bradley has, which are laid out in the link that I shared with you guys, which are Gold, Platinum, Diamond, Immune. What's meant by pre-admission testing? Chirag asks. So Chirag, you need to give me a bit more context, because pre-admission testing is different in different cases. Pre-admission usually refers to the period where, like, before you're being admitted to a hospital. So, for example, you're diagnosed with a tumor. I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen to you. Probably won't happen to you. But if you're diagnosed with a tumor or some treatment that you require to be admitted overnight to a hospital, that's called the pre-admission process. And in a lot of cases in insurances, you have to inform your insurance carrier within 30 days, or ideally before you're actually, in the case of non-emergency admissions, you're supposed to sort of inform them that, hey, I'm going to be admitted, so that they can sort of prepare and make sure that your facilities and everything is covered. In the case of like an emergency situations where you were admitted, it's the hospital's responsibility to report that to your carrier within 31 days. And so, Chirag, you might have to give me some context. So pre-admission testing in that context possibly will be getting essentially checked out for any illnesses that may not be detected, or any illnesses that might not be the premise of your actually being admitted to the hospital. But that's within the context, again, of hospitalization or inpatient care. If you're taking that term from somewhere outside of those contexts, then it could mean something entirely different. All right, so we're at 37 minutes. I'm going to pause for a minute, and I'm going to wait for you guys to put in questions. Yeah, okay. So then it's basically what I described, Chirag, which is like tests that you might have before you're actually admitted to the hospital. What else, guys? What are your other questions? Yeah, Chirag, scans are covered separately. Abhilasha asks, what do they mean by outpatient care? So essentially, inpatient versus outpatient is quite simple. Inpatient is essentially refers to any class of treatment for which you'll need to stay overnight at a hospital. Outpatient essentially means it's like you walk in, it's like even if it's a few hours, it's like essentially when you don't have like a hospital bed allocated to you, that's inpatient. Sorry, that's outpatient. When you don't have a hospital bed allocated to you, when there is a hospital bed allocated to you, essentially, loosely speaking, that qualifies under inpatient care. All right. It doesn't seem like you guys Yeah, okay. It seems like we don't have any questions there. So I'm going to run through a bunch of the excellent questions that Isha put up, starting here. So Isha asks, can you explain the term maximum out-of-pocket? Okay, so maximum out-of-pocket is essentially max out-of-pocket means is that it's the amount of money that will come out of your pocket after which the co-insurance becomes 100%. So to simplify it a little bit, if you think about it as sort of like, it's like your insurance company is essentially kind of going to be tracking is what they're going to be tracking is how much, or you should be tracking this, I guess, in some ways, is how much am I spending out of my own pocket, right? So if the out-of-pocket maximum of a plan is, say, $6,000 or $6,350, which is sort of a standard amount, then what that means is under no circumstance in that plan are you ever going to be spending more than $6,350. So this is a benefit that you can think about that really fits neatly into the worst case bucket, because for plans that have an out-of-pocket maximum like this, it essentially means that if you do get into something like an accident, or if you do get into an event where you probably have to pay very, very high medical bills, it's never going to exceed more than $6,350 because that is the out-of-pocket max. Out-of-pocket refers to what you pay out of your own pocket, and maximum refers to maximum. So it's the maximum amount of money that you'll ever have to pay, after which the insurance company steps in and says, okay, all right, we got this, and we take care of the whole entire bill for everything in the entire plan year going forward. So, and I believe that's another thing for ISO plans, that ISO plans do not have any out-of-pocket maximum. So you could essentially just be paying any amount of money under an ISO plan, and that's perfectly fine with them. For Immune, for example, the out-of-pocket maximum is $6,350. So under no circumstance ever are you going to be paying more than $6,350. In Platinum, the out-of-pocket maximum is $2,000, which is quite good in that regard. You are never going to be spending more than $2,000 out of your own pocket on the Platinum plan. I forget what that number for the Gold plan is, but I believe it's actually unlimited out-of-pocket maximum for the Gold plan, which is not a good thing. And for the Diamond plan, the out-of-pocket maximum is also unlimited, but that's because Diamond plan is a very special case, a special kind of plan, because it's got 100% co-insurance. And so what that means is that it by default covers the vast majority of your expenses like full. So it's basically like free healthcare, except for the smaller things where it has copay. And the smaller things are like prescription medication copay and like office visit copay, which is like you pay $25 to actually for your appointment or so on and so forth. So those copays that are existing in all other plans, those are the only things you pay on the Diamond plan. And so the Diamond plan is an excellent plan. I would probably say it's up there and sort of like our best-ish plan, in my view. Like, I think it's between Immune and Diamond. The thing that Diamond lacks is preventive care, which is that it doesn't cover certain core number of vaccines, and I'll actually give you the link for what comes under preventive care. And it doesn't cover routine physical checkups, which is essentially if you're the kind of person who likes to sort of visit the doctor and just get a routine physical checkup without being sick, that wouldn't be covered. But if you're actually sick, the Diamond plan covers 100% of your expenses. Chirag asks, doesn't that come under preventive care? Doesn't what come under preventive care, Chirag? I think we're missing some context here. Chirag asked a very good question. Are over-the-counter drugs covered in insurance? No, Chirag. Over-the-counter drugs are not covered in insurance. In any insurance, like that's just like a standard for the ecosystem. Okay, so out-of-pocket maximum. Hopefully that's clear, Isha. Let's talk. Does medication insurance cover supplements? I don't think so. You can check if it covers supplements under exclusions, but no. I'm actually. It's not that I don't think so. I'm quite confident it doesn't, because those are over-the-counter. They qualify as over-the-counter, and so that's definitely not covered. Barika asks, after you compare the plans, can you tell which plan do you think to be the best as compared to Drexel's? Sure. Let me pull up Drexel's brochure. I mean, I think the diamond plan's like really amazing because it's got basically 100% coinsurance, and that's just ridiculous, basically. Like that is really, really, really rare, and that is like, I'm actually probably going to be switching to the diamond plan. And again, the caveat is, if you haven't taken your vaccinations and if you're not the kind of person that sort of goes for routine checkups and physicals, then you should skip it. Then you can skip immune and then go for diamond, because diamond, the only thing that it doesn't have, and sort of its one key shortage or weakness, is that it does not have preventive care coverage, which is vaccinations and routine physicals or checkups when you're not sick. So if you're the kind of person who just like visit the doctor twice a year, get sort of everything tested and stuff, then then you should consider taking immune. But otherwise, I think diamond's like a solid plan and probably better than the vast majority of plans you'll ever find. I'm trying to find the. Okay. Okay, cool. So, okay, I can, what we can do is we'll publish this actually. We'll publish this tomorrow, like a detailed comparison of Drexel's plan with our plans. I just skimmed through the I just skimmed through everything that's written in the plan. I can quickly tell you that Drexel's plan is basically as good as the immune plan. Like, the immune plan is roughly equal to Drexel's plan. And the diamond plan, again, just because of its 100% coinsurance, and if you take preventive care out of the equation, that you don't need preventive care, you've already taken those vaccinations, which you likely have because that is an immunization requirement for the university. And if you're not the kind of person, if you're generally healthy and you don't need to be getting regular checkups in not a medical event, then the diamond plan is better than Drexel's plan, because I'm looking at basically an 80% coinsurance number for Drexel's plan. And so, that is basically what the immune level of coverage is. Immune's level of coverage is. That's basically what Platinum's level of coverage is as well, just in terms of coinsurance. But Platinum has some other things that it sort of loses out on. But then again, there are aspects of Platinum that are better than Drexel's plan. For example, Platinum's out-of-pocket maximum is $2,000. So in any circumstance, you're never going to be paying more than $2,000. So in the worst case bucket, Platinum wins, but it doesn't perform as well in the average case bucket and the best case bucket. So my impression would be, if I were to really rank them, I would say if you take preventive care out of the equation, it's diamond first, immune second, Drexel would be like second tied, then you've got platinum, and then you've got gold. That would sort of be the ranking. Again, a more detailed comparison, we might not have time because it's like already 48 minutes. So I can probably return and do that later. Okay, let's come back to other questions. So hopefully, Parker, that gives you a little bit of a sense of the things of the plans. This is an important question, and I'll actually cover this in the, maybe this is what we could focus on in the next webinar, is how does Drexel's plan compare to all of the other Aetna plans that we are offering? Isha asks, what is excess provision policy? That's actually a good question. I forget, Isha. Let me Isha, let me actually get back to you about that, because I actually forget. I've read about it. I just forget what that term is. So let me get back to you. Okay. Isha also asks, I checked the brochure of Bradley. Okay, we covered the soccer bit. Soccer is covered for sure. In Diamond and in basically any Bradley plan, any Aetna plan that has sports coverage has soccer coverage. Okay. Chirag asked a very good question. Actually, so before that, Isha asked, how are the age-specific plans considered? As in, will my age at the moment of registering? That's correct, Isha. I think it's how old you are at the moment of registering. If my age group changes, how does it work? Like during the plan? That is also a good question. Well, so I think the thing is that I'm gonna check this. but I'm pretty sure that the premium you pay depends on how old you are at that moment, right? So it's not like as soon as you turn 25, we're gonna call you up and be like, hey, happy birthday, by the way, can you pay us the difference in the premiums for the 24 on and under plan and 25 to 29 sort of plan? For which, by the way, let me quickly paste the amounts in the chat. So that's not going to happen. But I'll confirm this. But I don't think, again, like it's the moment of payment is when you sort of paying the premium, because the benefits remain the same, right? So I don't think essentially, like if you're 24 at the moment of paying or at the moment of registering, then you're fine. Okay. Isha asked, between Diamond and Immune, which is better? So again, like these questions have to be answered with more nuance and more sophistication, and I think I'll say it depends on your needs. If you the glaring difference between Immune and Diamond is there are 2 or 3 differences, or there are a few differences. The ones that don't matter, and I think we can sort of start to now compare the plans because we have roughly 10 minutes. So I want to at least do 10 minutes of material on that, and then maybe take 5 to 10 minutes of questions, and then we can disperse. But like if I were to list the differences between, let's actually do a comparison with Diamond and Immune plans. Okay, so the obvious thing that makes Diamond just so much better is 100% coinsurance. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but the first time we actually received that brochure from Aetna, we were like, wait a second, this kind of has to be a mistake, because 100% coinsurance plans are really rare just because they actually cover 100% of your expenses, right? And that's kind of nuts. And that's really good for the average case, and especially good for worst case scenarios, because 100% of your expenses are covered if you're hospitalized or anything of that sort, right? So that's a really good plan. And that's an area where it just far and away outstrips any plan, including Drexel's. Now, Immune has 80% coinsurance, and so that 20% can make somewhat of a considerable difference, right, in terms of numbers, and it probably does. So yeah, their Diamond is better without question. Now, let's talk about the other difference, which is the prescription medication coverage. The copay for the Immune plan is $10 for Tier 1, $20 for Tier 2, $40 for Tier 3. In the case of Diamond, it's $30 for all tiers. So again, I think they're kind of roughly equal there, because if you think about Tier 2 is the average case, you're paying $20 copay versus $30 copay, right? I don't think that $10 difference really sort of makes a difference, because in the case of a Tier 3 medication, you're paying less with Diamond, right? Tier 3 for Immune is $40 copay, and Tier 3 for Diamond is $30 copay. So that difference, I think, so you can say roughly medication coverage-wise, they're roughly equal, prescription medication copay-wise. And then let's think about one small difference is that Diamond doesn't have home country coverage. So in India, Immune gives you essentially, or whatever your home country is, it gives you $1,000 that you can spend in your home country as well and be reimbursed for that. Just in India, you'll be reimbursed unless you go to an in-network hospital like Fortis, for example. So and again, I don't think that benefit really matters, because you're probably buying this insurance to be used in the US. So really, these things don't make sort of that much of a difference. The big difference between Diamond and Immune, besides coinsurance, where Diamond is just way head and shoulders above, Immune. The one area where Immune is better is that Diamond does not cover preventive care. And I just posted a link about what preventive care entails. I'll post it again. But it's essentially a set of tests and a set of vaccinations that comes under preventive care. Now, the word, if you think about preventive care, that essentially is, it's got to prevent in it, right? So that essentially entails a certain number of tests that you could probably be having on a regular basis to prevent against like a future condition, right? So if you're getting your cholesterol checked or your diabetes levels checked, right? All of those come under preventive care. But as people who are probably younger than 30, it's probably likely that you don't need those, and you probably have taken those vaccinations. So if you're one of those people, essentially, one, who have gotten their vaccinations done and you're safe and secure in that area, and two, you are relatively healthy and you don't actually need, and you're not the kind of person who does get routine checkups without actually being sick, then you can close your eyes and go for Diamond. You're not going to get a better deal than that. Now, and so if that's not the case, then Immune's for you. Then Immune you should probably be going for, because if you're the kind of person that does get regular checkups, then that's the plan to go for, right? Because that is not covered in Diamond Standard. One more thing that I forgot to add, we are going to be putting up one more new plan called Diamond Plus, which I believe is going to be costing 1,300. Let me just type this out. 1,300, or like it's like I believe it's 1,350. I think it's either 1,300 or 1,350. Let's assume the worst case. Let's assume 1,350, right? So for 1,350, you will get preventive care with 100% coinsurance. So it's Diamond Plus essentially. So if you want the benefits of 100% coinsurance and preventive care, so like the most comprehensively better plan than anything kind of out there, you go for Diamond Plus. We just received the brochure for that. We're sort of figuring out some details, and we'll put up the brochure for that as well on the link that I've given you guys for Drexel. So anyway, that's sort of my summary of comparison between Immune and Diamond. That it's really about, do you need Diamond Standard at least? Do you need preventive care? Do you need preventive care coverage? Do you need vaccinations? Do you need coverage for those kinds of regular checkups? Are you that kind of person who invests in that or needs that? Then you probably want to go for Immune. Otherwise, Diamond's a better option. Okay, any questions there about Diamond versus Immune? Also, Isha says the link that you shared for Gradley plan brochure for gold plans taking me to Immune brochure. Yes, Immune's brochure is the default one, Isha. We just sort of checked on gold plans eligibility for Drexel because we weren't sure. We had a couple of doubts. So I'm actually going to be putting up, or someone's going to be putting up the brochure for gold later today, because we just recently got the pre-approval and confirmation from Drexel's side. Okay, so Diamond versus Immune. Diamond's the winner. Do you guys have any questions about that? Anything that I should cover, or can we move on to talking about other plans? By the way, the rough ranking that I would say would be, in my mind, Diamond. Again, this is assuming you do not need preventive care, but this would be the ranking I would have in my mind. And I'm typing it out. So the order in my mind is Diamond Plus, best plan, Diamond Standard, sort of second best plan, assuming you do not need preventive care. If you do need preventive care, then Diamond slides below Immune / Drexel's plan. And on number 3, sort of as a tie, I would say Drexel's plan / Immune, which are kind of roughly equivalent. And after that, number 4, Platinum, number 5, Gold. Okay, it seems like people don't have questions. So I'm going to compare the other two sort of pair, which is Gold versus Platinum. And I think the differences between Diamond and Immune, Diamond and Immune, yes, are pretty obvious, and you can kind of, the discussion we've had there hopefully will help you think about if you're comparing, say, Diamond. Well, you probably aren't going to be comparing Diamond versus Gold or Diamond versus Platinum, because Diamond's just like better. Immune's much, much, much better in various ways than Platinum compared to Platinum and Gold. Oh, okay, my bad. I missed Chirag's question, which was, what is the difference between urgent care and an emergency room visit? Okay, so an urgent care center, I want to get you a much more detailed answer than this, Chirag, because I'm sure that I'm missing some nuance here. But essentially, an emergency room visit is when you need like immediate care, like when you get like food poisoning, right? And you need to be seen in 15 minutes or like 10 minutes. That's when you go to an emergency room, or that's where you're probably sort of taken. If you call 911, well, you're not taken to the emergency room. You're straight away taken for care, but it counts as sort of an emergency care situation. So an emergency room is where you'd essentially be going after hours, because again, remember, and this is an important thing to consider as well, that like, your student health center is only going to be open every day, or like 5 to 6 days a week from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., right? So if you need medical care during that time, great. And that's probably going to be your first point of visit. But beyond that, after 5 p.m., any medical care that you need, you will have to go to a hospital. You will, if you need urgent, immediate medical attention, that's when you go to the emergency room. And if you can kind of wait, an urgent care is kind of like a mini hospital, mini clinic, and it's sort of situated in communities and has like less of a, it's got like, you can get partial prescription refills. You can get like, it's essentially for people like, it's like a community hospital, I guess is kind of the best way for me to describe it. So it's different from the emergency room in the sense that when you go to the urgent care center, it's not that you'll immediately get care. Like you'll probably get faster care at emergency rooms, but urgent care centers are for people, for example, who don't have insurance, or, you know, yeah, like it's more of a community hospital, if you kind of get what I mean. I should look at the nuance differences, but I know that, you know, these are the functions of the urgent care center, because it's just like you can walk in without an insurance and kind of get primary care. And yeah, it's a different use case than the emergency room situation. Hopefully that illuminates it. I can dig a little deeper later. Abhijit says, Drexel will for sure accept Diamond or Immune, right? Yes, that's correct, Abhijit, they will. Also, one more thing, Drexel's plan is also Aetna's network. Our plan is also Aetna's network, right? So you're going to get an excellent coverage, our coverage network in and around Drexel, because all of them are basically going to be, I mean, not to say that, like, you know, companies like United Healthcare and Aetna, their networks are so massive that it kind of goes without saying, but it's a nice fact for you guys to sort of consider that Drexel's insurance is also Aetna. Your insurance is also going to be Aetna's network. So, yeah. Doshika asks, as you've mentioned that there's no preventive care in Diamond, but let's say someone is already having diabetes or cholesterol problem and wants to check levels of whatever, then it'll come under diagnostic care, correct? Correct, Doshika. That comes under pre-existing care condition coverage. And yeah, that I believe is fine. But that's one of those things, if you do have, we really recommend this. If you do have a condition, let me make a note of this. If you do have a condition already, 100% please reach out to us and have a conversation with us, because we want to double, triple, fruple check that you are covered and everything you use and everything you have like is covered. We want to give you a cost estimate, all of those things. So please, please, please reach out to us. Please do not take a chance if you have even like a hint of a medical condition in the, or like now or in the past. Let me just make a note to sort of like talk about this later as well. Okay. Isha asks, what will be the Diamond Plus premium for under 25? Isha, it's going to be 1,300 or 1,350, I would say. It's one of those numbers. But oh, 24 and under. And I believe for the 25 to 29, we'll get the prices tomorrow, but I would expect it to be 16, 17, 1,700. Like, just add $400 to $500 to that, basically. That's a good sort of metric, worst case metric to when you're doing the math between 24 and under and 25 to 29. Just add a maximum of $400 to $500. Alrighty. Okay, so let's talk quickly about, it's already 1 hour, so I do have to get going. I'm just gonna, so the way I want to talk about the gold plan and the platinum plan is, I'm just gonna point out like quickly their flaws. A major flaw for both plans is, again, co-insurance for medication. They don't have a copay, they have co-insurance. So gold plan, I believe, has 70% prescription medication coverage, which I think is really poor. If you think about it, you're paying 30% of any of your prescription medication bills. That can rack up really quickly, right? Like if you get a $200 bill, that's $60 right there. And $200 bill is not uncommon at all. So I would say that's one of the weaknesses of the gold plan. Besides that, I mean, one of the good things about the gold plan is that, you know, it's got a $0 deductible. But then again, like, that saves you $100 in fixed costs, but that doesn't do near enough to compensate for other sort of weaknesses. It does cover preventive care, so on and so forth. Let me quickly check the brochure for the gold plan. But besides this, I don't think, I mean, again, like the co-insurance is 80%, so it's kind of kind of somewhat sort of similar, you could say, in terms of coinsurance to other plans, right? Because Immune's got 80%, you've got Platinum's got 80%. So those areas are like, those areas are roughly equal. Let's see. One more weakness that it has, but this is not supremely relevant. I think this is like more of a worst case scenario thing, which is that it has a $2 million limit in terms of the coverage that it has per condition. And one second, Chirag, I'll answer that question. So I was saying that Gold Plan has $2 million in maximum sort of coverage per condition, or sorry, per person per policy year, essentially. So that means that you cannot use more than $2 million worth of benefits, and that definitely comes under the worst case scenario, right? Because you're not really going to be casually just using $2 million worth of medical benefits. So that is one thing that's worth saying. Obviously for Diamond, for Platinum, for Immune, there's no limit. You can use any amount. So that's an area they're better. But again, like I don't think that actually factors into your analysis or sort of a concrete thing you'll be using. Now let's see. Prescription drug coverage, again, as I've said, that's definitely a huge weakness. The other weakness of the Gold Plan is that it has a pre-existing clause, which is that if you have a pre-existing condition, you can only use the plan for the first 6 months for up to $2,500 worth of benefits on your pre-existing condition. So if you do have a pre-existing condition, I do not recommend the Gold Plan at all, because it has that limit of $2,500 and you cannot use it for more than that. That is not the case for Platinum. That is not the case for any of the other plans. Yeah, so those are the two main weaknesses of the Gold Plan, as I would say. Very sort of 70% prescription medication coverage, and then there's a limit in the pre-existing condition coverage. Those are sort of high-level weaknesses that I'll quickly sort of mention. And again, if you have pre-existing conditions, don't take the Gold Plan. If you're, yeah, again, like that's sort of like the cheaper alternative if you're really trying to save money. But yeah, again, if you're trying to save money, you want to be thinking about the average case scenario. And the average case scenario, the Gold Plan is going to cost you some more money. I guess it's you have to think about like how many times expected you're going to be going to a healthcare center and how many times like you're going to be using a healthcare center. And so if you kind of do the math, does that math, again, go back to the equation, think about that. But in my view, Gold Plan kind of gets a meh vote from my side. Platinum's, again, definitely better. Now, where is Platinum better? Platinum's better in like a bunch of places. It's got an out-of-pocket maximum that's really excellent, which is $2,000. And so that, in the worst-case scenario bucket, Platinum's like far and above, better than even Immune. Just in the worst-case scenario, though. Like in the average case, Immune's way better, and so I don't think that's why it sort of falls under my ranking in below Immune. And obviously, it's like far and above better than the Gold Plan. So besides that, it's got 80% prescription medication coverage, which is better than the Gold Plan for sure. But I wouldn't say, again, I am generally, like, I'm going to give you advice that I would follow. I wouldn't buy a plan which has a percentage-based coverage for medication. I would buy a plan that is a fixed coverage because I just know, also because like, something that I will say, especially for you guys, is that, I mean, I had like a pre-existing visual condition when I came to the US that I've received treatment for since. So, I've like gotten a lot of experience with the healthcare system in the US. But what I will say is that the US definitely has a much greater quality of healthcare. And also I've seen the US has some very effective medication that just would not work, or that is not available in India, but that really, really works really well here. So if you have some kind of chronic issue, it could be something as simple as back pain. The kind of medication you can get here, that like it would make a significant difference in the quality of your life. And so if you are on like something like the Diamond Plan or something, I would recommend that you go and say as a back pain issue or like a back kind of issue, which tends to be common. I've had it. I majored in computer science, so comes with the territory. If you're buying these plans, like you should actually try to use them a little bit, especially the Diamond Plan, or even the Immune, right? Because the prescription medication coverage is fixed. It's not that much money, And if you actually get some kind of new treatment that radically improves a nagging issue like back pain for you, I think it's absolutely worth it. So that's another reason why I would recommend those category of plans as opposed to co-insurance-based prescription medication coverage plans. Doshika asks, do we have to generate previous reports while registering for insurance? No, Doshika, you don't. In medical information in the US is considered extremely like confidential and private. So you won't have to do any of that stuff. But what will happen is on your first visit to your university health center, they will sort of do a physical, and they will ask you a bunch of questions about like everything from like, do you drink and do you smoke, and like, are you sexually active, to what pre-existing conditions do you have. They'll check your weight, they'll check your blood pressure. They will take a full medical profile on your first visit on your student health center. And I highly recommend you do not lie on that. Just don't. Like, generally, don't lie in the US. It will have far more consequences than you're probably used to, and just not good. Anyway, coming back, I was talking sort of about the benefits of the platinum plan, and so out-of-pocket maximum, excellent there, full marks. Prescription medication coverage, better than gold, worse than the others. Let me think. Oh, also, I obviously, again, like I kind of didn't mention the $0 deductible for gold, but again, I also try not to mention that too much because I think people go overvalue like that $0 deductible. So I would say that that's like maybe a slight side benefit for gold. But besides that, I think platinum's pretty much better in all the areas. It's got no limits in terms of like maximum coverage. It's got I believe it's got sports coverage, which I think gold does not have. And then, prescription medication coverage is better. Out-of-pocket maximum is better. So again, in summary, this is how I would rank it. I would say Diamond Plus up there, Diamond second, again with the caveat that I've been stressing that you do not need preventive care. Immune/Drexel's plan I'll place at number 3. Platinum would be number 4. Gold would be number 5. That's my final ranking for things, guys. It's 1 hour, 11 and 12 minutes now. I will take a few more minutes of questions, and then I do have to run. And we can continue the discussion on the WhatsApp group. And I'll have some like housekeeping announcements towards the end. But let's quickly do questions, because I'm sure you guys also have to sleep and get dinner and all of that jazz. Is everything, and again, like, you please give me feedback. Is everything clear? What are you guys thinking about? What plan are people thinking of taking? And again, it's not like we can't make this a requirement, and I wish we could. Maybe next year we'll actually kind of make this a requirement once we have we've set up the system for this. But if you have any kind of pre-existing condition, if you have any sort of major surgery or any procedure in your life, please talk to us. Please make sure, like, our goal here again is like not to figure out what plan we can easily sell and make a quick buck off of you. Our goal, that's why like we invest so much time in like content, doing these sessions. Like, we do 3 to 5 sessions for every university, and we've been doing that for weeks now. So our whole goal, and like we win or fail by the metric of whether you've actually chosen a plan that works for you or not. And we're actually going to be following up and sort of doing surveys in 6 months and so on and so forth about your usage of those plans and how you felt and so on and so forth. So that's the metric we care about. So please, if you have any doubts, any shrivel of a doubt, this is an important decision for your life, please talk to us. Thank you, Doshika. Yes, very clear. Thinking of Diamond, we'll be waiting for Diamond Plus. Yes. I mean, yeah, I'll get it out like tomorrow. Isha, Diamond Plus brochure will be available tomorrow. But again, it's basically Diamond with just preventive care included. And I gave you the link for what preventive care entails. So it's not, there's not much that's left to imagination, so to speak. What else, guys? Any other questions? Oops. We've got 9 people. No one's talking. No one's saying anything. Is everything clear? Is everyone good? Is everyone bad? All right, Shweta. A couple of you, by the way. Okay, so let's actually just do the housekeeping stuff. Yeah, I'm not the most responsive / or like I'm trying to improve this, but it's just possible. Yeah, approve. That's what I'm going to go into the further steps. But just because of the nature of my job and like many times I'm sort of like running around doing meetings, calls, blah blah, or like coding. And I'm also not a default user of WhatsApp. So for example, I apologize if you've messaged me individually. I'm going to be sort of scrolling through like a bunch of overdue messages. Feel free to like keep poking me, kind of sometimes harass me a little bit if you need my immediate attention. But so apologies about that. But to remedy that problem, as I said, Parag's back. Parag is in the group, and both Parag and Toshika, thank you so much for being sort of proactive and helping us reach more students. But Parth is back from vacation, so he's going to be available. Aditi, another one of our team members, super prompt, super available, super. She handles sort of enrollments and waivers and stuff as well. So she's going to be the point person for you guys, and she's going to be answering questions. I'm going to be chiming in. I'm toying with this idea of possibly just every day going live at like 11 a.m. EST as an 8:30 p.m. and just like going live and like working, not actually like doing this like whole session thing, and just sort of like office hours basically, where people can just come in and ask questions while I'm working. Like I'll be like coding or like whatever, and then I can just answer questions. So I'm toying with that idea, and that might actually happen in the next few days. So let's see how that works. We might actually do it. We are dropping a health insurance video finally. Now that Part's back, we will be releasing that video soon, and that's going to contain a lot of these ideas that we've talked about in very condensed and hopefully sort of like on-point format. You can share it with your friends, and as always, please do share with your friends. Please tell them. Now, in terms of next steps, once you guys have decided and finalized the plan, if you, by the way, have confusion, text us, text Aditi, text Parth, or text in the group. We will engage with you, and we will make sure that you can actually select a plan. But once you select a plan, which is, you go to the website essentially, you click purchase now, and I think I've talked about our process a little bit, but I'll talk about it now. You are going to be charged a $25 fee, and you pay that fee, and we begin your waiver process already. Like we generate your insurance ID, we put together all documentation, and then we file the waiver for you. We'll get in touch with you sort of like to get whatever information we need from you for the waiver, and then we fax the waiver to Drexel. Once the waiver is approved is when you pay the full premium. That's just sort of like the policy that organically has emerged. That's our process. We just feel like parents and students tend to feel sort of more safe and just like this process more. So that's what we're going to do. You only pay once your university has said, all right, these plans are great, go for it, right? And so again, we've checked these plans. They're pre-approved with Drexel. If any of these plans, in the off chance by some, like, again, I don't think it's going to happen, but just we have to tell you that that $25 will be refundable if the waiver gets rejected. So there's literally no risk. And yeah, one more thing I want to say. If any of your peers are mentioning PSI, by the way, we've got the Gold plan, which is the exact replica of PSI's Gold plan at, I believe, $20 or $30 cheaper. We've got the Platinum plan. The PSI Platinum is actually Aetna Immune, and so I believe how much is the Drexel Aetna Immune is like $1,075. That's like $100 cheaper than the Platinum PSI Platinum plan, and they don't have a Diamond plan, which is what we have. So if someone's sort of like parroting PSI, explain to them the concept of brokers. We are a broker. PSI is a broker. These are the same plans, and they sort of upcharge it. So, if anyone's considering the PSI Platinum plan, it's the Immune plan at $100 cheaper. If you're considering the PSI Gold plan, it's Bradley Gold plan as well, if you want to call it, except it's like $30 cheaper. So, Parag says Drexel's plan is $2,000. Really? It's $2,496, I believe. Yeah. It's $2,496, so $2,500. Anyway, so that's the process. You pay $25. We'll get in touch with you in 48 hours, get your waiver process started. We file the waiver. Once you get the approval, then you pay the full premium. That is all. All right, guys, that will be all. We are going to be dropping the health insurance video. As I said, Aditi, Parth are going to be fantastic point people for you to be sort of answering promptly daily questions. I'm going to be chiming in every time I get an opportunity. And we'll do more of these. And again, I think what we might do is we'll announce this with the health insurance video launch is like just kind of constant office hours. This is an experiment I want to run, and I want to just test this. Is that if I go live every day for 2 hours at like a fixed time, what happens? And just like open it up, like just keep it open. I'm going to be working, and people can chime in and like ask questions, and I'll just talk while working. And I'll probably like for those 2 hours, I'll probably like allocate some work that I could do with some distraction. And so that's an idea I'm toying with. So yeah, we'll probably announce that with the health insurance video. And we will do more of these. Thank you, as always, for watching. If you have any questions, please put it in the group. I will have to take my leave now, but I will see you guys very, very soon. Please tell your friends. One of the things, it feels right now that we're not getting as much of a response from Drexel, which is why I kind of was, again, I was sort of making the point that, like, I'd much rather sort of do a session where we get a bunch of people, because that group has 75 people. And, you know, we're getting what? We got 10 parallel viewers today. The peak viewership was 12 or 13. So yeah, please help us with that. Talk to more of your friends. As we've made the argument, even if they're considering something like ISO, right? Those plans don't even make financial sense. Like whatever the difference between those plans and say our gold plan, even if you take a worse plan, you will save money with our gold plan. For example, just comparing those two plans, like gold plan's got $0 deductible. ISO's got per occurrence deductible. If you take any kind of medical care 3 times in a year, you're like $90 is their per occurrence deductible. It's 90 multiplied by 3, $270 right then and there, right? So yeah, it doesn't even make financial sense, right? It's not even cheaper and it's not better. So, you know, hopefully you guys can spread this word, and hopefully we can reach more people, and hopefully the group can become active. So looking forward to that, looking forward to talking to you guys more. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you guys very, very, very soon. Take care.